So welcome one and all to another episode of Wiki Weekends, the series where I, your host for this episode, Karl Smallwood, will scour the lengths and breadths of the internet for a wiki on a subject I'm interested in and talk about it with my good friend Lucas Holland, located off camera and off screen.
Just above you in the attic.
Wait, what? No, don't do that. I've only just moved into this place, it's really threatening, so it still makes mysterious noises at night and I don't like it.
That's me.
Don't say that. I'm paranoid. I made the mistake when I first moved into this place. I was like, do you know what I'll do to celebrate? I'll watch a bunch of horror movies about people hiding in the walls.
No.
And that was not a good idea. But do you know what is a good idea? Watching She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, the subject of today's video.
We're on the edge of greenness, turning darkness to light.
So far away, Lucas, you've probably heard me talk in the past about She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. Unironically, one of my favourite shows. I'm wearing like a nice bit of merch for the show right now. Let's go, Lesbians. A gift from my ex who got me into the show that I'm going to wear right now and make money off. Yeah, how'd you like me now? So, Lucas, what's your familiarity with the show?
I know that you talk about it. That's about it. I do know that one of the actors in it, I can't remember the character's name that she plays, but Karen Fukuhara.
Karen Fukuhara is in the show, yes, as the character Glimmer, as we'll get to. But, Lucas, the beauty of Wiki Weekends is, if you're not familiar with the subject, the wiki is right there for us. So, for everyone out there, like Lucas, unfamiliar with the show, or is only passingly familiar with it, let's go through the intro now, so we can all be on the same page. Specifically, this Wikipedia page. So, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power is an American animated television series developed for Netflix by N.D. Stevenson and produced by DreamWorks Animation. So it's DreamWorks, it's got some DreamWorks money and some Netflix money behind it.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that it was DreamWorks. They generally seem to be like more 3D CGI kind of animation, whereas this is like more traditional 2D looking, right?
Yes, there's some like do you know the classic thing of like you'll watch a show that's like really well animated, and there'll be some 3D models that immediately make you go, why do they pull in? Oh, it's cheaper. Like, when you're watching like Attack on Titan and just
I was about to bring up
I knew you'd mention that when you're watching like, oh wow, this is really well animated. Oh, the weird 3D Titan models look shit.
It's so bad in some of it.
And you just find yourself thinking, why did they pick the things that look worse? Oh, it's probably cheaper.
Like the fucking colossal Titan, and it's like, why does it look so awful?
It's like, why is it just a car door walking down? Anyway. Like the 1985 Filmation series, She-Ra, Princesses of Power, of which it is a reboot, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power tells the tale of Adora, an adolescent who can transform into a heroine, She-Ra, and leads a group of other magical princesses in a rebellion against the evil Lord Hordak and his horde. That's right, it's called Hordak and he leads a horde of enemies. This is a show inspired by something from the 80s.
Adora, He-Man's twin sister.
And Lucas, does any part of that description, and perhaps maybe just the name She-Ra, remind you of any other property from the 1980s? Because that might give you a clue about what She-Ra is linked to.
I know that there's like the He-Man linkage, right? Like they're both in the same universe, but I also kind of got like a bit of Sailor Moon in there with a character like transforming into She-Ra. I didn't realise that was the case.
Well, Sailor Moon is a huge influence on the show, to the point where, on Wikipedia, when it lists like what genre the show is, it notes it is adventure, science fantasy, sword and planet, comedy drama, superhero, and magical girl.
I wasn't sure what like the genre that Sailor Moon falls into. I didn't realise it was called magical girl.
It is the magical girl genre, and do you know what's really funny? He-Man also technically counts as a magical girl genre show, because technically He-Man is a magical girl, where he does the cool transformation into a superhero who saves the day.
By the power of Grayskull.
And as mentioned, this is one of my favourite shows because, you know, it's really fun. Also, it's pretty decently animated, except for the crappy 3D parts that pop in every now and again. And the magical girl transformations are pretty top-notch. Like, the best bit about He-Man is when it's like, I have the power, and just transforms. She-Ra does it all the time, and it's great.
I wonder what the power refers to. Is it like, I have the power to sell you a bunch of toys?
Well, and technically, She-Ra doesn't say, I have the power. She says...
For the honor of Grayskull!
And the wiki continues, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, hereafter referred to as just She-Ra, so people know what I'm talking about. If I'm talking about the one from the 80s, I'll clarify. Received widespread critical acclaim, with particular praise for its diverse cast and the complex relationship between She-Ra and her best friend turned arch enemy, Catra, who ends up just, like, entering into a lesbian relationship with She-Ra.
If my helmet were that adorable, I'd leave it on too. Those ears.
It is not!
Oh, cool.
Hence, let's go, lesbians. And I know someone's going to say Glimmer's not a lesbian. She supports lesbians. Let's go.
She's an ally. Let's go. Just...
We support lesbians and their allies on here. So, like, guys, gals, non-binary pals, you know you're welcome on this show.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of being super gay, the show was nominated for a GLAAD Media Award for Outstanding Kids and Family Programming, as well as a Daytime Emmy Award at the 46th Daytime Emmy Awards. In 2021, it was tied with First Day when it won the GLAAD Media Award for Outstanding Kids and Family Programming.
Cool.
Yeah. And Lucas, thoughts so far on this might be the gayest TV show ever made.
Oh,
It's awesome. Lucas, this show is so gay.
But I was more thinking, like, reality shows where it's like RuPaul's Drag Race and Queer Eye and stuff like. There's some quite gay shows out there.
I think it's gayer than RuPaul's Drag Race.
Meh.
Do you know what, though? RuPaul's Drag Race is also a great show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe that's not a fair assumption. I've not watched every show. And if anyone has any other suggestions what might be an even gayer show, let me know. I'd love to watch it. And Lucas, here's the fun stuff, though. Voice cast and characters. So you mentioned earlier there's a particular person who has a starring role on this show, and that actress is...
Karen Fukuhara.
Which is really funny because I'm guessing 90% of the people watching this episode know Karen Fukuhara from one of two roles. The Suicide Squad, where she plays Katana, or The Boys, where she plays Kimiko. Both of which she doesn't speak in.
Kimiko kicked some serious ass last season.
Which is great.
So weird.
And she's a really good voice actress.
That pink blob next to her.
Her sidekick! Glimmer! What?
And I just always assumed that her casting as Kimiko was like a meta joke about the fact she's a fantastic voice actress, but is being cast as a character who doesn't speak. Then I looked it up and went, that's the second feature role she ever got.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like her second role was just Kimiko. And like Katana was her first role, and it's like, oh, that career was almost dead right away, right?
Yeah, and obviously she has like a small role in Bullet Train. I know she's in that, and then she was in like the Callisto Protocol as well.
Yeah, where she's criminally underutilized and barely says another word, which is again really frustrating. She's a fantastic fucking voice actress.
I'm gonna go raid the kitchen in celebration. Glimmer! I'll bring back some cake.
And it's really jarring when like you actually hear her speak in this show, because she's such like a bubbly, high-pitched voice person, and it's just, you don't expect it because all I've seen her in is roles where she never gets to talk.
Yeah, and her role as Glimmer is, from what I've seen in interviews with her, closer to her real-world personality than Kimiko is. Because they have all those great behind-the-scenes shots of her just like taking selfies on the set. When it's there's that great one where it's like Mother's Milk gets attacked by the man with like the 40-inch schlong.
Oh,
There's a great selfie from Karen Fukuhara. She just takes it. She's just smiling, and you see everyone in the background just covered in blood fighting, and it's so good. And she's so good in this show.
Yeah, that's the thing is like every time I see her in interviews and stuff for the boys or behind the scenes, she's like comes across as this really bubbly person.
She's just got such great energy, which is very well utilised on the show, and she stars alongside Emmy Carrero as Princess Adora / She-Ra.
Wait, Glimmer's dad was your brother?
Adora. do you know what aunt means?
No, I was just hoping someone would eventually explain.
The voice actress for She-Ra is fantastic because there's just, again, the energy is really, really, like, just endearing. And there's some fantastic lines in the show, like, for example, when just Adora first gets her She-Ra powers and just walks around as She-Ra all the time. And I was like, do you not want to go back to being Adora? It's like, why She-Ra's got better hair? It's like She-Ra's 8 feet tall and magic and has perfect hair. Why would I not be She-Ra all the time? It's like, that's a good point. You should be She-Ra all the time.
That is true, because part of, like, the magical girl transformation powers is having perfect hair at all times.
Absolutely, yeah. And She-Ra does have perfect hair at all times. Then we have A.G. McCulker as Catra, and like, again, fantastic voice actress, and the relationship between Adora and Catra is one that builds throughout all of the show. And just as a just a cat lady, she's so catty, she's so bitchy, which is great.
What's going on? Ooh, are we messing with Adora? Catra, do you have to sit right there? What? I'm not doing anything.
Adora, concentrate! Yeah, Dora, concentrate.
You can do it!
And one of the best things about the show is when they pair characters together whose personalities really do clash. And Catra acts very much like a cat. Very aloof, very could not care less. And they pair them with Scorpia, who's just like this giant scorpion lady who's like, ooh, you're so cute. I like your ears. Like, don't touch the ears.
Kitty! Huh?
Just so you know, I'm a hugger.
Speaking of, like, perfect hair, it's just, I know there's quite a few people, you know, that I've been friends with and stuff that just have really nice hair, and it's like, people won't stop touching my hair. Like, it really fucking annoys me. It's like, yeah, I can't imagine how annoying it'd be to, like, you know, have hair that someone constantly wants to touch, or, like, you know, little cat ears or something.
It's just so cute!
It's not cute!
And like, rounding out the principal cast, we have Marcus Scribner as Bo. And Bo, I flit between whether it's like Glimmer or Bo as my favourite character, because Bo is so good. And there is a running gag that is, it's one of those things where it's really stupid, but because they commit to it so hard, it's the funniest thing every time it happens. And Bo is wearing a costume very much inspired by the 80s one. Like, he's the only character who's wearing a costume that's like basically one-to-one with the one from the 80s, including the silly little like ab window.
Oh, right, okay.
And they have like this running gag where he can't do any of his cool like martial arts or like bow tech without his midsection being like exposed. They have like a bit where he turns up for like, oh, they go to a ball, and he walks in and he's wearing his cummerbund, and everyone's like, huh? And they look down and it just draws attention to his cummerbund, and he's like, yeah, I hate it.
What have they done to you? Oh.
We got your arrows.
There was like a bit like he's trying to reach for something. He's like, I can't quite reach. He's like, wait, I know. Rips the cummerbund off so you can see his midsection. He can stretch just far enough. And it's so stupid, but it makes me laugh every time.
But ultimately, that's the kind of energy you want from this kind of show, is like to just lean into the stupidness.
Yeah, and that's the one of the things they do lean into, how dumb the 80s show was. And they have this great episode where they try to come up with a plan to like go attack the big bad. And each character comes up with their idea of a plan, and it's a different animation style for every single one. And one of them is like a direct reference to the original show, and they give everyone their like original costumes and designs.
I am Bo, She-Ra's best friend and defender of Etheria.
Ooh, we all get hats.
Then another one is a Cowboy Bebop reference. And they give everyone
so
Cowboy
cool.
Bebop style anime costumes and redesigns, and it's so sick.
Just let Glimmer handle this.
And that's the thing, is you can go one or two ways with a reboot like this, is you double down and make jokes about how silly the 80s version was, or you have to do like the grim dark reboot where it's super serious and like, just don't do that, don't.
It contrasts so well with that like Kevin Smith He-Man show where it takes the universe so fucking seriously because Kevin Smith's like a huge weirdo. Like, I must pay reverence to this like show from the 80s designed to sell toys to 11-year-olds.
Yeah, because that's the thing, right? It's just, they are completely unabashedly unashamed about how much He-Man was just buy toys, you fucking children.
Yeah, and obviously He-Man does not appear in the She-Ra show, but the energy from those the He-Man show and the She-Ra show is very much there, and they very much hang a lampshade on how camp and fun it was. Like I said, the costumes, making fun of the silly costumes. Yeah, it's kind of silly that we dress like that, right? It's but we got to own it.
I'd pause to reflect on your upcoming death if I were Mew.
I don't know. I'm feline pretty good right now.
Stop. You gotta stop.
Now we're all hoping this plan kills us.
Yeah, He-Man was a fucking weird little... I don't even know what to call it, but just there's some kink going on in He-Man's outfit.
Never forget one of He-Man's closest friends and allies is called Fisto.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anytime I can give you a hand, just let me know.
And when Fisto offers you his hand, boy, that's a big offer.
And that's one of the things that She-Ra acknowledges, that with the gift of hindsight, that original She-Ra show and the He-Man show were kind of camp. Very camp. And a little bit gay. And not in the way arseholes online would use a pejorative. It's gay. He-Man, it's very hard not to read the character of He-Man with viewing it through a modern lens. He's a little bit gay, right? And that's great.
Yeah. One of the only memes that I know about He-Man, other than the Skeletor stuff, is just He-Man dancing in a rainbow.
And so I cry sometimes when I'm lying in bed just to get it all out what's in my head. And
the fact that to power up, he's got to rip his shirt off. Right? He just rips his shirt and he's super buff underneath. But we're not finished with the cast yet, because this show has a very stacked cast. And I won't say everyone appears in the show, but I will highlight a few choice actors who lend their voices to it. So we've gone through Karen Fukuhara, AJ McCulker, Amy Carrera, and then we have Marcus Scribner as Bo, but then other characters who appear are Lorraine Toussaint as Shadow Weaver, and Shadow Weaver's fucking sick, because Shadow Weaver looks, again, exactly like they do in the 80s. Are you familiar with Shadow Weaver, Lucas?
No, for a second I thought it was a Baldur's Gate 3 character.
It does sound like a Baldur's Gate. So just Google Shadow Weaver and look at why.
Okay.
And Lucas, tell me, actually Google Shadow Weaver 80s and tell me, why is Shadow Weaver so stacked? Why is this weird magic lady so stacked?
Shadow Weaver 80s. Wait, what?
Yeah, how stacked is Shadow Weaver?
We're gonna have some completely cloaked witch-looking character, but for some reason we gotta make sure we show off how good their body is.
At all times you can see those big, massive, stonking tits. Yes, and I'd say the design in the reboot is far better, and the voice actress is so good.
You've been growing magic plants this whole time? What do these do?
Those daisies, I find them cheerful.
There was a great bit towards the end where Shadow Weaver, because you might guess by the name, they're not one of the good guys. But they say, do you know what? Fuck this. I hate being evil. And it's also, I'm the most powerful wizard in the world. Fuck you.
Oh, that redesign's excellent.
The redesign's fantastic. And the voice actress really fucking just nails every scene they do.
You're welcome.
And here we go, Lucas. Daniel Day Kim as Micah, the King of Bright Moon.
Daniel Day Kim's another one of those actors who's in so many more things than you realise.
So that's the one people always say. They always say Johnny Gat or Jin from Lost. But just Daniel Day Kim, such a fucking fantastic actor.
No. I'm a surgeon.
Yeah, that sounds like a good voice cast right there.
It's a real stacked voice cast, and as mentioned, one of the things it got a lot of credit for is just how diverse the cast is. For example, there's a character called what they call now, I think Double Trouble, and Double Trouble has the ability to just change their appearance, they're a shapeshifter, and as a result, they chose to portray them as non-binary. So they felt compelled to get a non-binary actor in to portray that character.
Lord Hordak, I'd like to introduce you to Double Trouble. They're our newest asset in taking down the rebellion.
Apologies for being rude. I was getting into character. Did it work? Be honest. As always, I'm open to constructive criticism.
And Lucas, going on from what I mentioned earlier, the characters in the show were intended to be deliberately diverse, both in regard to their appearance as well as character traits. For instance, some characters range from good to evil but understandable to utterly amoral or a full-blown hippie.
You want anything, you just tell me and I'll get it. You want snacks? I'll get you snacks.
Yes. So energetic.
And finally, it mentions here He-Man, who in the original version was She-Ra's brother who awakens her destiny, does not appear in the reboot in order to set up She-Ra as a hero in her own right.
Yeah, it would be kind of one of those weird things of, hey, we're rebooting She-Ra and making sure that, like, you know, we have positive representation and we're showing off, like, strong female characters, and then it just gets sidetracked immediately to be about He-Man.
Yeah, because, and one of the things that was really funny about when the show first got announced, and, like, the initial trailer came out, you had a bunch of weird men who've been like, oh, they're taking away She-Ra from us. Like, She-Ra, the original show, was explicitly a spin-off from He-Man, because little boys didn't like that She-Ra was appearing in the show, and it was explicitly aimed at little girls.
It's like, now all those little boys grew up and are now mad that they took their She-Ra away.
And one of the things that's really fun about the show is that the creator, Andy Stevenson, has been really open to fan interpretations of how characters act and their motivations and the inspirations for the design. For example, in June 2020, Stevenson said that Catra was a woman of colour, saying he discussed her as being a brown Latina when designing her, although he was not explicitly textually present in the show. As a result, Stevenson has expressed enthusiasm for fans who interpret Catra as representing Persian ethnicity.
Bo isn't the type to just leave all of his old friends behind, and neither am... Hi.
I mean, you know, it's one of those things of, like, if it's not explicitly put into the show of, like, their race and a certain, like, group of people go, hey, this is, like, positive representation for us, and we think that that's what the character represents. It's like, yeah, sure.
Great, right? And it's just the thing of, like, if that's the way you interpret the character, that's valid. That's not the way we intended it, but your reading is interesting, and we fully support it. It's similar to
exactly.
Mark Hamill is in that He-Man show. It reminds me of when a fan at some event asked him of, like, do you think Luke Skywalker could be gay? And Mark Hamill just stops for a second and thinks, oh, I never acted in one way or the other. That was never in the direction, like, from George Lucas. But if you think, like, you know, Skywalker's gay, then he's gay. If that's your reading of the character, that's valid. I'm not going to take that away from you. That's really all you need to say, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's literally in a world set where just the Jedi get told to repress all their sexual feelings, so none of that is really shown much in the show, other than him kissing Leia because he feels some connection, and clearly that connection was not the connection that... It was romantic.
Like, keep in mind, the only person he ever kisses is his own sister.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move swiftly on, shall we? Character design. I mentioned this earlier. So after the first images of She-Ra design were released in July 2018, controversy ensued on social media. Because, of course, some internet users contended that she was not as beautiful and sexy, voluptuous or glamorous as in the original series, or that she looks like a boy. Other users responded that the new series tried to avoid sexualizing a children's show and conveyed body positivity. And it's just one of those things of, it's like, it's a fucking kids show. There's plenty of wank material out there if you want to find it. Also, as the whole thing, like, less is more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of these character designs are fucking 10 on 10. Like, the Shadow Weaver one, right?
Yeah.
Some of the characters are fucking just absolute just money. But, like, this bullshit ain't got a tits out, so it's not, my PP doesn't get hard. It's like, okay. Really?
Glimmer! Glimmer, where are you?
She's gone. Micah?
Mm-hmm. No, God, get the tits out.
Get your rat out for it, lads.
No.
And, you know, speaking of this controversy, they actually tracked down the co-creator of the original series and asked them for their thoughts. So that's one Michael Straczynski, who responded, first and foremost, She-Ra was written as a warrior. That anyone who is looking back at her as the ideal woman is doing so through the lens of prepubescent interest and kind of understandably imprinted on her like baby ducks. I get it, but that wasn't the intent. So basically just saying, hey, you are horny teenagers, maybe you should think about growing up past that phase.
Mm-hmm. It's like, oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff that people watch when they're like, you know, kind of prepubescent and just kind of learning that those kind of feelings, and it's like, oh yeah, this is like awakening something inside of me, seeing like these buff men and women on screen, but it doesn't need to be about that when you're a grown person.
Also, as well, like, you know, those designs back in the 80s were relatively tame, right? They weren't as explicit as people are making out. So, like, so you mentioned that thing earlier, like, oh, I hope this doesn't awaken something within me. I think we mentioned in a previous episode about, like, you know, those character designs that, you know, make you realise, oh, I like this and I don't know why. Because, you know, you're young and you can't, like, you know, understand the feelings that you're having. And a lot of the time when you ask people about those characters, it's usually just a character who was just never intended to be interpreted that way. Like, a common one is, like, we spoke about Teen Titans recently, like, a common one is, like, Raven, right?
Yeah, a very common one. For me as well, I'm like...
even though Raven's wearing, like, a form-fitting leotard, but, you know, it's never, you know, the focus of...
But it's never sexualized, right, in the show, and...
Maybe you haven't noticed, but my emotions are dangerous. I can't afford to feel anything. You may have my body, but you know nothing about me.
Perhaps you are right. And if you and I are to overcome this ordeal, we must know everything about each other.
The same with, like, another one that's very popular is, for, like, at least people our age, Shigo from Kim Possible.
Yeah,
where it's
that's
like,
a really popular one, again.
Or the goth girl is here. It's like, again, not sexualized, but it's just like, oh, hey, like, badass goth lady is in.
Yeah, and it's more often than not, it's the characterization of that character that, you know, obviously the first look is with the eyes. Obviously the look invites curiosity, but then it's like the characterization is what people end up latching onto, right?
Totally, yeah.
But it's just very, very funny to me that they went and got the original creator, and it's like, fucking idiots. What?
Yeah.
Like, just the idea that he was like this close, has been like, why the fuck do you care? It's like, you're 40, get over it.
Yeah, it's like nostalgia goggles are hard to get over, but it's weird when it's like nostalgia goggles for being like a horny 14-year-old seeing like half-naked people on screen.
Yeah, and just like, you know, I guess to end on, we have here LGBT representation. So, prior to the release, the creators of the show indicated that the series would provide LGBT representation. Tor.com commented that the series reads as utterly queer in just about every aspect imaginable, with many characters coded as fluid in terms of gender or sexuality, and none as clearly heterosexual. Which weirdos online must get mad about, but I think of that great Ruth Bader Ginsburg quote when she was the only woman on the Supreme Court and was asked, like, oh, how many women do you think should be on the Supreme Court for it to be fair? And she just said all of them. It's like, that doesn't seem right or fair. It's like, well, it's been full of men for like 50 years and no one complained then.
Yeah, right. It's like, see how they feel if for the next 50 years it's all women.
Stevenson said that when a network executive asked what the rainbow in the climax of the first season's finale meant, they replied simply, the gay agenda. Obviously joking, but it's one of those things where they said it clearly joking, but then people are like, oh, they're trying to turn the kids gay. It's like, no, they're just showing that it's okay to be gay, because, fun fact, people are gay. And a lot of people realise that they are gay, or trans, or non-binary, or asexual, usually, you know, when they're quite young, and they don't understand how to pass those feelings. One of the things that makes it difficult to pass those feelings and understand them is because there's no representation for that in the media that is aimed towards them.
Yeah, I mean, like, I still remember the moment as a kid when I found out what gay meant, which was just like oh, okay, well, you know how you've got, like, an uncle that's with a man and he loves him? Yeah, that's what that word means, gay. And I was just like, oh, right, okay, cool, yeah, let's move on. But I didn't know what, like, trans was for a long time, non-binary. Like, these are things I'd just never heard of. So having, like, a, you know, show that's based around the idea of representation and talking about these things is so helpful for people.
It's also, as well, it just makes for a far more interesting show because you are getting perspectives that you're not familiar with, and as a result, you're always learning something new.
Yeah.
But some people, they fucking hate that. And Lucas, I feel we've talked for long enough about the gay agenda. So let's instead talk about the pay agenda. We need to get paid, folks. So if you want to go and help us get paid, you can go support us on Patreon. Was that good?
Okay, I'm not mad, because for a minute then I was like, Karl, we can't say that we've talked about the gay agenda for long enough. That isn't long enough.
There's not
we
enough
can
time,
keep
yeah.
talking about it.
It's one of those things where I don't mind talking about it because, I'm secure in my sexuality. And I'm glad that our content appeals to a broad, diverse range of people who feel comfortable enough to express that to us. I also kind of enjoy that. Bigots don't like it because who cares what they think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice in both ways because it's like reaffirming for people and letting people know that it doesn't matter who you are, you're welcome within our community. But it's also very funny that there's like people out there just screaming woke at the screen and getting angry at us.
Instead of watching a phenomenal TV show that's like very well voice acted, has some fantastic stellar animation, and just is genuinely really, really funny and entertaining.
Adora! Catra? They let me drive a tank!
But, if you would like to join a community of, like-minded folks where you will feel welcome for whoever you happen to be or love, well, you can join our Discord, which, if you want to post pictures in, you can do so by joining our Patreon. Did I do good, Lucas? I'm really bad at plugging it normally.
Yeah, we are terrible at plugging it, and it's only $1, and it's just so that, it's just Karl and I, we find it hard to moderate an entire Discord server of hundreds of people, and,
Also, anyone who's engaged with any of these topics online probably knows that a little bit of moderation is probably necessary to stop the weirdos coming in and shitting up discussion.
Exactly, yeah. And it's hard to try and be very open about oh yeah, we welcome everyone in our community and we want people to feel safe, but also to be able to keep an eye on what hundreds of people are posting on a Discord at all times.
But if you would like to join that Discord and continue this conversation, or perhaps any of the issues that were raised therein, you can just go to the Discord found below, join it. We'll all be there, and we're looking forward to seeing what people say.
Hell, goddamn yeah.
Cheers everyone for watching, and see you all next time. The gay agenda. So gay. It's so powerful. The gays, Lucas, are taking over. Good on that.
We're all coming for you.
And